Hey,
Welcome everybody. I want to welcome you all to the Counterpoise podcast. Today, I'm one of your co-hosts, Everett Stevenson, joined today with my other co-host.
hey, everybody. My name is Malik Foster. I'm another co-host for the Counterpoise podcast.
Hey, everybody. I'm your third co-host. My name is Samantha Adams. And today we come to you with an interesting topic. Now, a couple months ago, we were talking to y'all about like a situation where it was like Chris Brown keeps getting accused of stuff, and we talked about his reaction. So today we're going to talk about something similar to that, but not quite that. We're talking about how Black people, specifically, more particularly Black men, I mean, because it happens with Black women, but it mostly happens with Black men. How Black men need to move more carefully and with more diligence and caution when it comes to being involved in allegations and how to avoid them versus our white counterparts, right? And the reason why we chose to talk about this today is because of the Jonathan Majors situation. Many of y'all may know who Jonathan Majors is, and if you don't, you at least know his face. He's the guy that's on the Creed 3 movie. He's in a couple other movies too. He's an actor. And essentially what happened was his girlfriend had accused him of violence. I believe it was like strangulation or something, harassment, and all this other kind of stuff. They had an altercation. I think it was like an argument or something. He called the police and she made the accusation, and it turned into a whirlwind of foolishness for him. Only for later for her to come out and say, oh no, I made it up. And that in part was because he received text messages from her where she pretty much admitted to making it up. And so you see that happening more often, because I remember something like that happened with Trey Songz, where he was accused of raping somebody or having some sort of a sexual misconduct situation with some female. And then she came back and she texted him and was like, oh yeah, no, I'm sorry, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, when these types of things happen, it doesn't always have to be sexual or violent. Just anything that's negative, especially as it relates to Black folks, it always turns into something else. Because Jonathan Majors, you know what I'm saying? He lost endorsements. It puts a cloud over the Creed movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, it does all of these things. There's all these negative side effects and impacts that not only happen to him, but also take place to the people that are around him. So that was pretty much what triggered the discussion we're going to have today. Guys, did you guys want to add anything?
Yeah. So this Jonathan Majors situation, it kind of reminds us that, a mere allegation is enough, especially for men, and specifically when we're discussing Black men, right? Like we use the example of him, but there's other examples out there as well, such as Chris Brown. I'm even thinking of Herman Cain. I know people didn't like him. Rest in peace to Herman Cain. But even when he was running for presidency, he was gaining a little traction. Some allegations start stirring up about him. So, it comes to our minds like, maybe this is something that is drummed up behind the scenes. Maybe some people may dislike certain people and they start, issuing these allegations, because we can also juxtapose some of these allegations to President Trump, where he's admitting doing all these illicit things and crazy acts and nobody bothers him. There's other guys, Harvey Weinstein, took forever to get him down, like people who actually done stuff, like white people or people who do have some sort of power. It takes a while, but even if a Black person does have some money, like riches and fame, if they don't have that power and influence, and even when they do have some of that power and influence, a mere allegation can shut them down in terms of, the Me Too movement is quick to mobilize against them financially. Like, hey, these companies that sponsor you, they have to go down, et cetera, et cetera. But when we have people like Jim Irsay doing all kinds of drugs and all that, no one is calling him to like sell the team. I'm not saying that's that bad, but or if Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots. He's doing sexual things, there's illegal sexual things in massage parlors down in Florida. No one bats an eye. They just, hush up because he has that power, that wealth and influence. So, but if a Black person even, gets an allegation or charge without the investigation being completed, that's enough to actually harm them financially and make them a social pariah. So, you want to jump in? Or
Yeah, no, I definitely think that on the issue itself, it's definitely one that, we see happen all the time and time again. And I also throw a situation in there on not particularly in regards to, the Jonathan Major situation, but just in general, it seems like a lot of times, especially when it seems a person has something of value or is seeking to gain something of value, that we see these attacks or these allegations come forward. We've seen it occur at different times where, some of the situations where there may have been discussion in regards to, there's an allegation that, right prior to Bill Cosby having some of the issues that he faced, he was alleged to, be in conversations with by NBC or something like that. And then there's the story that broke that, he had all of this other stuff going on. There's other stories in which people had deals lined up, story breaks, come find out most of it may not be true. And then we still go back to seeing that there's another breakdown in which, that individual then no longer is able to have, some of the things that they previously seek. I think one thing that we can see on the counter side of it, in which it ended up working out for the male side, was the whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. And I mean, maybe that may be something that starts to set precedent in a new way in which things are going to get handled. Because that definitely would be, one situation in which we've seen somebody go from being a individual male who was in a situation to then, have some things taken away from them based on some allegations that was brought forth, and then to see them, kind of beat those allegations and then move forward. So those are the type of things when I look at it, I say to myself, like, maybe there's an upswing and a change, but again, that's a white male versus a Black male. So you have some of the races and politics that go in there.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of other differences with the Johnny Depp situation and the Amber Heard situation. The reason why that's another major difference is both of them have money. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you are Chris Brown or Jonathan Majors or Trey Songz or Herman Cain even, right? And these people are making these allegations and you lose money, it affects your reputation and all that, and you lose sponsorships and stuff. Yeah, you absolutely can sue for defamation, right? But the thing about it is, you ain't gonna sue a rock, right? If somebody doesn't have any money, the only thing you're really having them do is to stop defaming you. But at that point, the bell is already rung. You can't unring that bell. You know what I mean? And so I think it's important to also recognize a couple of things. Number one, Johnny Depp filed a lawsuit against Amber. It wasn't like, out of the blue, the state decided to do something. It was he went and actively protected himself in the legal avenues that he had available to him because he had lost that money. You see what I'm saying? And on top of that, he sued somebody else that had money so that he could recoup some of the things that he lost. When you are suing somebody that doesn't have any money, it's really not worth anything, right? Other than the first, and on top of that, you just gave that person attention. And some people don't care about whether or not that attention is negative or positive, but now they just made a name for themselves. And it's almost like do anything for clout, right? They're doing these things for clout and clout chasing and all of that. And then they end up benefiting off the clout they created, off the demise of that person, in particular, that Black man, because, the example that you gave, Malik, was a good one when you talked about Robert Kraft, right? Robert Kraft is not just the owner of the Patriots. He's also the owner of Kraft macaroni and cheese, Kraft cheese, all Kraft products. Hood, which is a milk product, I believe. Hood is a milk product. It is out of Massachusetts. I think it might be New England. I think he might be the owner of that as well. I'm not 100% sure about that. But the thing about it is, when he was alleged to have been involved in sexual conduct out in Florida at the massage parlors, like we heard about it, people laughed and joked about it, then it went away. Like he was able to get that thing to go away. But let that had been like Bill Cosby. You know what I'm saying? Let that had been, let's not even say Bill Cosby, because Bill Cosby has a big red scarlet letter on his name. Let's say that had been Barack Obama. We are talking about a whole nother type of situation. You see what I'm saying? Somebody who's looked at and revered as a squeaky clean person, somebody that's successful in the avenue in which they push their career and all of that. And yet, that then at that point, everything is a wrap. That's all they're known for. But like Charlie Sheen, on the other hand, who's admittedly giving HIV out to people, ain't even get a charge. Like that's bonkers to me. Because if it was a little Pookie, a little Ray Ray, a little Man who was doing it, he'd be all over the plastered all over the news, paraded into the jail, and he'd have a bunch of felony criminal charges placed against him for doing the exact same thing that Charlie Sheen did. And I think that it's important to highlight that, right? Because even money definitely plays a part, but that notoriety, that fame, it becomes such a bigger thing when you're a person of notoriety and fame.
Yeah, I kind of want to point out, like, this is some of the weakness of the Me Too, some of the feminist movements, because it seems like you're targeting, going after the weaker of the male groups if they have the power, the weaker of the groups in terms of power, wealth, and influence, and also social standing. Because Black Americans tend to, not all of them, but generally speaking, compared to their white counterparts, they'll have maybe less power and influence, generally speaking. Even if they do have the wealth, they might have less power and influence, or if they do have some of that power and influence, society will definitely go against them a lot easier, quicker, and faster. So it's like the Me Too movement, the feminist movement that are trying to promote, like, hurry up and harm these people financially and take them down. It seems like they're putting more energy towards Blacks, as opposed to putting that same energy towards white males that do these acts or are alleged to have done these acts, because it seems like allegations are enough in the public opinion's eyes, but we're not waiting until investigations are completed, like in some case, or we get some sort of evidence that they have done this through an investigation or through the courts.
I'll tell you another more noticeable case that we didn't also speak on too was, again, the Deshaun Watson case. Another situation in which, again, a lot of people came forward, nothing really stick, and his career was held in limbo for over a year while that situation was being sorted out. But to your point, I disagree. I think that the system is working exactly how it's intended to work. Exactly as it's been intended to work. Of course, they're not going to go after the people with influence and power, because those may be
I'm not talking about the
who,
system. I was talking about more so like the movement of people trying to.
Right. Yeah. And I think that the reason why the movement is one that would be considered to be such a large movement, or one that we will look for justice, is because that movement has been brought forth and, kind of propped up by individuals and with power. You got to think, like, when you talk about the Me Too and I guess Black Lives Matter, particularly the Me Too movement, I think it was just more so like grassroots thing that was just being done all around. It wasn't really like an organization that went with that. But when we look at, like, say, Black Lives Matter movement, which was an actual organization that had other organizations that kind of supported it, it was like, okay, we were seeing, major corporations all making, positive donations to these or monetary donations to these organizations. And I think that's kind of like the same thing that would go behind, the situations of what gets recognition in this country and what doesn't get recognition in this country. And I think that's one of the reasons why, notably, that's why we haven't necessarily seen some of those names on that billionaire's playground, or what you call it, of Epstein, and some of his flight logs and things of that nature. There's been some names that's been speculated, but they're really the release of all. And I feel like all of those things play into the part of, again, the system's going to protect the people that need to be protected. And I think that's why, unfortunately, where I do have to agree with what you said is that our culture hasn't necessarily had the right type of political backing that it needs in order to ensure that justice is done for all citizens, and that the group, the culture as a whole, is valued and treated with a certain level of respect.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I agree with most of the things that you said, Malik, with the exception of the Me Too movement and the feminist movement. The purpose of the Me Too movement was to highlight so let me back up. Sexual assault is real, and it happens to far more women than is ever reported, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that. And so with that being said, that's what the Me Too movement comes from. The feminist movement is rooted in finding equal rights for women, right? Of all shades, shapes, and colors, right? And so when you're looking at those two things at its core, right, and at its foundation, and understanding that that's the purpose of those organizations. It's not, and not even necessarily organizations, but movements, right? It's not to just, belittle the man. It's literally to equalize the woman. And so, and find equity and gain equity for the woman, and which women still do not have, right? Now, when you're talking about how often you see Black men versus white men or whomever being persecuted, and I'm not going to say prosecuted, but persecuted in the eyes of public opinion, you definitely see it happen more with white men. But the detrimental effect of it is far more severe for Black men than it is for white men, right? Like, we can take R. Kelly. R. Kelly did a whole lot of stuff, right? A whole lot of stuff. And so did, what's his face? What's the movie producer? The one who even started the whole Me Too movement, right? What's his name?
You're talking about Harvey Weinstein?
Yes, Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein was a maniac. You see what I'm saying? And to have over 100 famous people, right? Let's think about that for a second. 100 famous people come forward about the behaviors that how he conducted himself. That's not even including the people that ain't famous, who are trying to get their start, who are still scared even after those 100 and whatever women came forward. You see what I'm saying? That right there is totally different. But you see R. Kelly in the news every other week. He's never coming home. Let's be clear. R. Kelly's never coming home. He's never coming home. He got so many years in different prisons and jails. He's not coming home. Then they're talking about he got to pay $4 million in one lawsuit. He's going to have to pay so much more money. You see what I'm saying? It's a wrap for R. Kelly. And it's not to say that I'm trying to be pro R. Kelly, but at the same time, it's like you see them literally throwing him under the jail, under the bus. They have sent him to hell with a do not return ticket, right? But with Harvey Weinstein, he didn't get a slap on the wrist, but number one, you barely hear about him. See how I forgot his name? You barely hear about he was convicted, but he didn't get anywhere near as many years as R. Kelly. despite the fact that Harvey Weinstein is an older man and he's probably still going to die in jail. You see what I'm saying? I remember when Bill Cosby was accused, I thought he was going to die in jail. He was lucky to get out. You know what I'm saying? His lawyers were working very diligently. And so I think that it's important to recognize like these mere allegations can really have a really detrimental effect. Case in point, Chris Brown. After Chris Brown got into that whole situation with Rihanna, there's rumors about him putting his hands on other women since then. But, there have also been all kinds of situations where random ass people are breaking into his house, all up in his closet, doing all kind of weird stuff. You hear about all of these situations where these females come to his house and it's a party, and all of a sudden there's some crazy allegation that he done did something. Him and Trey Songz, you see that with the both of them often. And then it goes away. It goes away, not like it disappears and fades away, like it literally goes away because they get vindicated. And then it keeps happening. It's like, why do y'all keep accusing him if they keep getting vindicated? Unless it's really happening, right? If it's not happening, then all right. But then stop accusing him. But if it's happening, I get it. Because the thing about it is it also takes away from the true allegations. Like people really are out here getting harmed by some men, don't matter what color they are. And the fact that these people are out people, and I'm going to say people because you also see it like in basketball, right? In football. Oh, they did X, Y, and Z to me. Oh, they beat me up. They did this. They didn't nothing happen. Also, they can get a check. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that it's important to recognize that it's not even always women that create these problems, but all that needs to happen is an allegation, and they lose all kinds of money, everything that they worked for. And if they didn't do it, then I think it's horrible. Like, stop doing that. Barack Obama, for example, pretty much had to be squeaky clean in order to like get through his presidency, his post-presidency, and not have a single scandal or anything else, just to be on the same level as some of these other presidents. Whereas Donald Trump, on the other hand, just got indicted the other day, and he got all kind of stuff with him. You know what I'm saying? But, despite all that, it's still this huge comparison. How are you comparing two people that are incomparable? Why? Because they both held the same office? That's not enough to compare two people, unless you're talking about the work they did while they sat in that office. But in their personal lives, they're not comparable at all. Like, there's nothing similar about them in their personal lives. You know what I mean? Other than the fact that they married and have kids. That's it. Did you guys want to add anything?
No, I think we can go into whatever else if we want to go into the minute. I don't have anything with it.
First, we wanted to come up with some solutions, Steve.
Yeah. So I guess I wanted to make one little comment and then we get into the solution. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Sam. I just feel like, the whole movement, like they're getting more results with Black people, and it feels like they're more targeted Black men specifically, because when we look at the white counterparts, it's like the energy is less, maybe because the people they're going after tend to have more power and influence over certain systems, like you was saying, like the political system, more connections in the judicial system and stuff like that. That could be a factor as well. Something that maybe. But
what does that have to do with it? But allegations don't necessarily have to be sexual, right, or violence against women. So why are you only highlighting the Me Too movement or the feminist movement? Like, what about these random people out here that are like, oh, he knocked me down. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, he pushed.
Because I'm highlighting it to just show an example of, like, okay, this has been an issue, but it's like they're going harder on one group and getting results out of that as opposed to another group.
I don't think it's that they're going harder on Black men. I think they're giving them the same level of zealousness. I think they're giving them the same level of zealousness. The problem is public opinion is more harsh. Like, I can make an accusation against Bob and I can make the same allegation against Rashad. And at the end of the day, Rashad is going to catch the worst punishment because Rashad is Black, not because the allegation was worse or because I put more force behind one or
but that's my point, Sam. Like that's the difference. It's like, okay, and I feel like they focus even harder on the Black person.
When you say they, who are you referring to?
The movement.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what my pushback is. It's not the movement. It's it's public opinion, right? If you have that movement, regardless if it's Me Too, feminist movement, or whoever, they make the same accusation against a Black guy and a white guy. The reason why the Black guy is receiving harsher results from that is because he's Black, not because of the work that's put in, the focus and the attention.
Right.
The attention is not coming from, let me finish what I'm saying. The attention and all that's not coming from the movement. It's coming from the public. Because anytime a Black person does anything, it's news. You see what I'm saying? And so that's just public opinion. And so what happens is people get hung in the eyes of public opinion. The news, like, for example, right? Remember earlier I said sexual assault happens. Domestic violence happens way more often than it's reported. Doesn't matter who it's against, right? Men, women, Black, white, yellow, green, purple, orange, or whatever, right? But it's not reported as frequently as it actually happens. And because it's not reported as frequently as it actually happens, it's not going to gain the same type of attention, right? So then once it is in fact reported, then, it's an issue. When it's a Black man that it's reported against, you see public opinion, the news, for example, the media. They want to just keep talking about it ad nauseum, but you don't hear about Charlie Sheen. You don't hear about Harvey Weinstein. You don't hear about all these other famous white people that have actually done this stuff, whether admittedly or because they were convicted by a jury of their peers or because they took a plea or whatever. You see what I'm saying? I don't think that has anything to do with the movement. I think it has everything to do with public opinion and how
they're part of the public opinion, though, Sam. And the person you mentioned,
everybody in the public,
the person you
everybody in the news, everybody in the public is not a part of the Me Too movement or feminism. There's plenty of people out there in the public that are not.
I think you guys are saying the same. I think you guys are saying the same thing. I feel as though, like, while Sam, you're making that argument that, it's the public that's persuasive. Malik, you're making an argument that it's the organizations that kind of, can form the opinion or push the opinion of the public. And I'm still saying behind all of those things are parties and individuals who are feeding the narrative for the organizations and the media to also persuade the public as well on who to look at as, to perceive in certain type of ways. It's like they say, like, murder happens in Black and white communities, but 9 times out of 10, when you think of somebody, killing someone else, 9 times out of 10, a lot of people, they're going to think of, it being like some sort of Black on Black crime, as opposed to knowing that in raw reality, there's more white on white crime in this country than there is Black on Black. But, perception is in society that most crime that occurs is, Black on Black crime. So I think there's things that go into that, right? Because we all know that there's more white people in this country than there are Black people. So therefore, likely, even if crime rates were consistent throughout all races, or even inflated in some instances, it still wouldn't equate to, making the jump to make it so that there was more Black people creating more crimes than whites. But again, I think all of those things are persuaded by the perception that they give in the media, and that's all because people want it to be seen as, Black people to be seen in a certain light. So that's all I wanted to add. I think you both are hitting on the same points. It's just factors that go on a little beyond just those first two that also influence.
Yeah. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, like the Me Too movement, they can try to do a better job of applying that social pressure on white counterparts of power, wealth, and influence the best they can, even when the allegations are of because it seems like, you know, like the media apparatus, everybody just is on it when it comes to Black people, but when it's the white people, it's like, you know, they go ghost. It's like it's non-existent or little pressure. So it's a racist component. I feel like there's a racist component still, even within the Me Too movement, to just be like, you know, subconsciously even to apply that even more pressure to Black people than they do to white people. I could be wrong, but I mean, based off of just what we see a lot of that. So we can get into solutions. I'll just say my two.
I just want to.
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to clarify. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying essentially is that I don't think that they're applying any less pressure against white people versus Black people. What I'm saying is that the public opinion is pushing it further and harder on Black people than it is on whites. That's all. But you can go ahead and begin with the solutions.
Yeah, I'll go with mine real quickly.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Mine is just that I think that we have to be more careful in the surroundings that we put ourselves in and the people that we're around. So therefore, we don't allow ourselves to kind of be placed in positions in which, you know, we could essentially get ourselves in trouble. Like you said, he called the police for his own safety and ended up losing the most. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we gotta be mindful of the situation and understanding what's going to go on if, you know, certain actions are taken, and try to act accordingly.
Yeah, so my solution is this. I think when people are actually trying to drum up these fake charges against you, there needs to be some sort of recourse, especially when they turn out to be false, the person's lying on you. There should be some recourse for the other party. I definitely think that would help deter some of these allegations that are false. Because people are losing substantial sponsorships and other partnerships and business deals over just allegations alone. So there needs to be some sort of recourse for those people that happens to, if we're going to keep doing things like this and carrying on like this. Also, second, socially, I think socially we need to do a better job of shaming these liars of, you know, we don't need to believe people who just spout out the mere allegations. We should try to be more patient as a society and wait until investigations are concluded or there's more concrete evidence that's being shown that this transpired, because anybody can say anything and we shouldn't believe the he said, she said type of deal. And I think that's where we're going down that slippery slope. So those are my solutions.
I think y'all are onto something. I do think that like when there's a cancel culture, if ever there's a time to have a cancel culture, it's after you find out that some of these allegations are false. I think that it's important to do that because we got to stop making people that lie and ruin the lives of others famous. I think that right there also we need to do that, right? Stop making these people famous because, you know, they're doing anything for clout anyway, right? I think that as Black folks, we have to be more conscientious and steadfast in vetting the people that we're around, especially the higher you go up the success ladder, right? Because what you don't want to do is put yourself in a position to end up with the kind of problems that any of these Black men that we've mentioned have had, right? You have to be more mindful in your actions and recognize that I don't care how much money you have in your pocket, you always have a target on your back as a Black person. And to remember that is, and keeping that in the forefront of your mind, I think will help mitigate or minimize, you know, the frequency in which this type of foolishness happens. And I agree, Malik. I think that there has to be some sort of punishment of something that that will help deter people from doing this kind of foolishness, because it's ridiculous. And I mean, it's frustrating too, because when the true allegations come out and there's validity to them and they're real and they really happened, it makes it harder for those people, right? Because it's like now nobody wants to believe you because 3 other people cry wolf, but this really happened to you. And that also is a problem. So I think we have to find new ways to deal with this stuff, to wean out the real from the fake, so that the real can be dealt with accordingly and the fake can be dealt with accordingly. So with that, I'm going to get ready to close out. But before we do, I want to go ahead and dive into our Black Book of the Month. Black Book of the Month is called The Light We Carry, Overcoming Uncertain Times, and that is written by Michelle Obama. This book pretty much outlines some of the challenges and lessons from other stories that have taken place in her life. It's kind of like a part 2 to her book. And so, how she's overcome some obstacles and finding the courage and strength in ourselves. It's a kind of an inspirational book, how we can find some courage and strength in ourselves, so in our community, to pretty much recognizing our own light and just being brighter and moving forward in our lives to become better people. So that's the Black Book of the Month. The Black Business of the Month is a bookshop. It's called Brave and Kind Bookshop. It is here in Decatur, Georgia. And you can also purchase books online. It's the neighborhood local shop. They have kids and family. It's a kids and family bookshop. And there's a curated selection of different types of literature, from activity books, preschool books, to fiction favorites, and graphic novels. So make sure y'all check them out. The website, let me give you guys the website. The website is going to show up right here, but it is braveandkindbooks.com. So y'all make sure you check them out when you guys are looking for some books to read. And then lastly, a motivational quote. It says that it's from somebody by the name of Alice Miller. And the quote says that all children are born to grow, to develop, to live, to love, and to articulate their needs and feelings for their self-protection. And I thought that quote was good because at the end of the day, right, even as children, we know that we have to have some sort of self-preservation. We have to speak up for ourselves. We have to do things that we have to do in order to keep ourselves protected, and especially as Black folks. I think that, it's important to remember that some of these things are innate within us, and we have to make sure we tap into that so we can keep ourselves safe and protected. And we hope that you guys enjoyed our podcast for today. We will be back on Wednesday for What's Up Wednesday. What's Up Wednesday is right around 8:30 on Instagram Live. And if you're here, then you know that we done posted this thing right around 1:30 on a Saturday afternoon. And so with that, you guys can make sure you follow us. Our socials are also at the end. If you guys have any ideas or would like to be on the show, please feel free to reach out to us. We like company. We like people to tap in with us and participate in our discussions, no matter if it's on here or if it's on our What's Up Wednesday segment. And if y'all have any ideas, we're more than happy to talk about them. So with that, we want you to like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and all of that. And fellas, do y'all have anything else that y'all want to add?
No, not really, but thank you for tuning in. If y'all guys have any questions, you can shoot us in DMs, hit us up, and we'll be more than likely to answer them in a quick, efficient manner. And let us know if y'all want to talk about any different topics or anything like that. So thanks. Appreciate you guys.
Anything?
So peace.
See y'all. Peace out.
Yeah.